Then, today, at 11 a.m., there was a remarkable sight. Imagine you're driving on a highway, cars everywhere. And then, without warning, every car around you stops, right in the middle of the interstate. Not because of an accident, not because of traffic, but because a siren is sounding. Every person gets out of their car, stands in the middle of the road, all heads bowed, silent. This is what happens in Israel every single year. It is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. Reporting from IsraelForEndTimes.com, this is Brian Schrauger. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, 22 April 2026, U.S. President Trump's temporary ceasefire with Iran expires. Will hostilities resume? More and more, it looks that way. Here in Israel, no one believes Iran will agree to surrender its uranium, cease nuclear weapons development, or agree to relinquish its one remaining chokehold on the world, closure of the Strait of Hormuz, or opening it with imposition of a toll on every ship that passes through. Israelis dread the return of ballistic missiles from Iran, running to bomb shelters anytime, day or night. On the other hand, they are virtually 100% agreed. The Islamist regime sworn to Israel's annihilation must be defeated, decisively defeated. At the same time this is coming to a head, the country's focus goes in an unexpected direction. Today and tomorrow, it is celebrating two of its most meaningful civic holidays, Yom HaZikaron, its Day of Remembrance, and Yom HaAtzmaut, its Independence Day. The first, Yom HaZikaron, began at sunset just last night. All across the country, people gathered to remember and honor its fallen. Everyone from 1948 until today. Then, today, at 11 a.m., there was a remarkable sight. Imagine you're driving on a highway, cars everywhere. And then, without warning, every car around you stops, right in the middle of the interstate. Not because of an accident, not because of traffic, but because a siren is sounding. Every person gets out of their car, stands in the middle of the road, all heads bowed, silent. This is what happens in Israel every single year. It is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. Yom HaZikaron is Israel's U.S. equivalent of Memorial Day. On its heels, beginning at sunset tonight, on Tuesday evening, 21 April, Yom HaAtzmaut begins. One, a day of grief. The other, a day of fireworks and dancing in the streets. And they happen one right after the other, separated by a single sunset. The proximity and transition is both jarring and profound. Why are they back to back? What can their proximity teach us? Especially those of us who love Israel and want to better understand it. Let's start with Yom HaZikaron. The name in Hebrew means Day of Remembrance. Its full official name is even longer. It translates Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers of the wars of Israel and victims of actions of terrorism. That's a mouthful, but it tells everything we need to know about what this day means. As mentioned, this is Israel's version of Memorial Day, but it feels very different from what most Americans experience on Memorial Day weekend. There are no sales, no cookouts, at least not yet. In fact, by law, all entertainment venues are shut down. Television channels stop their regular programming and, for 24 hours, scroll the names of the fallen. All civilians, name by name, all military men and women, in order, rank by rank. Those names add up. As of this year, Israel has lost 25,644 people in defense of the country since 1860, before the state even existed. In just the past year, 170 soldiers were killed, and the circle of grief does not stop with soldiers. Since 1948, 5,313 civilians have been victims of terror. Altogether, that means more than 74,000 family members, parents, spouses, siblings, children, are part of what Israel calls its bereaved community. That is a huge number for a country of just 10 million people. In Israel, almost everybody knows somebody. This is not an abstract holiday. It is personal, very personal. Nothing captures that better than the sirens. As you heard at the top of this report, Yom HaZikaron began last night at 8 p.m. with a 1-minute siren that sounded across the entire country. Then, this morning at 11 a.m., there was a second siren. This one, 2 minutes long. When these sirens sound, Israel stops, literally stops. Bulldozers shut off, cranes hang midair, drivers stop in the middle of the road. On highways and roads, Israelis stand next to their cars, heads bowed. For those 2 minutes, the whole country breathes together in grief. There is also a national flower for this day, the red everlasting flower, called in Hebrew Dam HaMaccabim, which means blood of the Maccabees. You'll see people wearing it as a sticker on their vest. It's Israel's poppy. Then, all at once, at sunset tonight, Yom HaAtzmaut begins, Israel's Day of Independence. If Yom HaZikaron is Israel at its most somber state, Yom HaAtzmaut is Israel when it's most alive. Yom HaAtzmaut marks the founding of the modern state of Israel on 14 May 1948, when David Ben-Gurion stood up in what is now the Tel Aviv Museum of Art and declared, "We hereby proclaim the establishment of a Jewish state in the land of Israel, to be known as the State of Israel." After 2,000 years of exile, after the Holocaust, after millennia of longing, the Jewish people once again had a national home in the very land God promised to them forever. Across the country, there are transition ceremonies from Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut. Perhaps its most significant transition ceremony is at Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, Israel's national military cemetery. At sunset tonight, 12 torches will be lit by 12 Israelis chosen for their contributions to the nation. One torch for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And then the Israeli flag, which has been flying at half-mast all day long during Yom HaZikaron, is raised back to full mast.
Dagel, check.
And with that, the nation shifts. Israel celebrates it the way you'd expect. Fireworks, streets closed off so people can dance, concerts, barbecues, families out on hikes, balconies covered in Israeli flags. It is joyful and loud and full of life. For those of us who love Israel and see it through the lens of faith and Scripture, this day carries enormous weight. The rebirth of Israel after nearly 2 millennia is one of the most significant events in modern history. A people returning to their ancient land, a promise kept. The prophet Jeremiah put it like this: "Behold, the days are coming, says Adonai, that I will bring back from captivity my people Israel and Judah. I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it." Yom HaAtzmaut is the annual celebration of this prophecy's fulfillment. But why are these 2 days, Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, both jarring and profound? At the ceremony on Mount Herzl at the very end of Yom HaZikaron, just after sundown, the flag is raised from half-mast to full. A military band begins to play. Soldiers parade with their flags, and within minutes, fireworks began. Tears on one side of sunset, fireworks on the other. Every single year, Israelis are asked to do something emotionally extraordinary, to grieve fully, and then celebrate fully, and all within a 48-hour period. How does this work? Why does Israel do this? Why not separate the 2 days at least by a week so the mood has time to shift? Why hold grief and joy so close together? The answer lays in the very heart of Jewish tradition and in the heart of our faith as well. The psalmist, King David, understood this better than almost any other human author of the Bible. Psalm 30, verse 5, puts it in one line. For all of us who are alumni of sorrow, its words are both challenging and profound. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. That's not just poetry. That's a promise. Grief is real. It gets the night. But mourning? Mourning belongs to joy. In Israel, that verse plays out on a national scale every year and in real time. Jewish history is full of this pattern. Think about Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish year. A full day of fasting and prayer and confession. And the night before, the very night before, a joyful feast. The rabbis teach that feasting and fasting carry equal spiritual weight. You cannot fully understand one without the other. And Purim. Remember Purim? The holiday celebrating how the Jewish people were saved from annihilation in the Persian Empire. Before the celebration, the book of Esther records a 3-day fast. The terror came first, then the deliverance, then the joy. The sequencing is never accidental in biblical history. We reflect before we rejoice. And in doing so, we recognize that rejoicing is meaningful. For us as disciples of Yeshua, there is another way to understand the profound connection between sorrow and joy. We see that connection in remarkable clarity on 2 days we call Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday. We are not allowed to rush past the cross to get to the empty tomb. The Apostle Paul captured the tension between sorrow and joy in his letter to the Romans. We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. That is exactly what Israel does on these 2 days. They don't skip the suffering. They walk through it, together as a nation, because they know what's waiting on the other side. So do we. Like them, our hope, our joy is richer for it. One Jewish writer, Yossi Klein Halevi, put it this way: the celebration of independence gives meaning to the loss. Those who died so that the Jewish people could live in freedom in their own land. The grief without the celebration would be only tragedy. The celebration without the grief would be hollow. Together, they are truth. And there's something else that deserves reflection. Israel is a nation of 10 million people that has lost almost 31,000 to secure and protect its existence. When the fireworks go up on Yom HaAtzmaut, every Israeli knows, in a way that maybe most of us in the West do not, exactly what those fireworks cost. That knowledge doesn't dampen the joy. It deepens it. So what do we do with this? There is a verse in the book of Romans that summons us to share in Israel's celebration of both these days. In chapter 12, verse 15, Paul wrote, "Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn." This week, Israel is doing both. So can we. If you want to connect with Israel in a real way, here's something you can actually do. Go to the video links in the description to this report. One video is at 8 p.m. on Yom HaZikaron, the other at 11 a.m. the next morning. As each one plays, join Israel. Stand in silence. Let yourself sit in the weight of what Israel carries. This is not a small thing. This is mourning with those who mourn. It's the kind of knowing that turns support into something real. And then embrace the joy of Yom HaAtzmaut. Israel's independence is something worth celebrating. A people who were nearly wiped off the earth within living memory now have a thriving, democratic, creative, complicated, resilient nation. That's worth a barbecue. That's worth fireworks. It's worth giving thanks to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their God and ours. But let the grief come first. Don't skip it. Israel doesn't. This is one of the most important things Israel can teach the rest of us. How to hold both. Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut are two parts of one story. A story that says, we remember the price, and because we remember it, freedom, redemption, means everything. Israel doesn't let joy forget where it came from. Neither should we. Before signing off, one last thing. This is important. There was almost no conventional news in the report you just heard, but there is a lot of news. See it and keep up with it by going to the Tipping Point chat feature. Along with a few Tipping Point members, John Anderson and I are posting stories pretty much 24/7. To reach the chat room and follow all the latest news, go to the website endtimes.com, then click on chat at the top of the page. When you see this page, the easiest way to open chat is by clicking below the QR code on the text that reads, "or open on the web." The direct link to our chat room is substack.com/chat/10475. Again, substack.com/chat/10475. For weekly summaries of major news about Israel, be sure to read the Weekly Dispatch from Jerusalem. Its title is From the Global Front in Israel. In addition to at least 10 top stories from the week, probably more right now, you will also find a brief essay, spiritual warfare tips, anti-Semitism news, and short biblical reminders. Be sure to read, share, and use the Weekly Dispatch from Jerusalem. Armor up. Reporting from Jerusalem for endtimes.com, thanking God for you on both Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. And until next time, this is Brian Schrauger.